Do you see a fallen tree? I see a future house. I see a stealth shelter. Some religious folks believe it's okay to lie to others and say that it's the end of the world when it's not. But if the brown stuff hits the twirly thing and it does become the end of the world, or Armageddon as they call it, then what bug-out supplies would you take with you if you were forced to flee? So I'm going to go through a day's worth of the kind of foods that I would take with me and a day's worth of menus. So let's start off with, I like to start my day off with some tea. We presume that you've got some way of boiling water. I would use a rocket stove, and I would pour some water onto the tea. So I've got my tea and boiling water, and then you want to put in a little bit of milk. Now I'm very partial to using this coconut milk or coconut butter. You can also use condensed milk. So I just use a small teaspoon of it just to give the tea a sort of a buttery taste. And then you obviously want to take with some sugar if you're used to having sugar in your tea. That's how much I normally have per cup. Now, while I'm having tea, I'm also going to have some oats. I really do believe oats are a wonderful prepper food. You can store them for a long time. You just pour them into a cup like that, add your boiling water, and leave it to stand while you're having your tea. So that's easy enough. There you start your day off with some tea. As I say, you can either use coconut milk or condensed milk if you prefer. Condensed milk, I'm not sure if it lasts that long. This coconut milk I bought years ago, and it's still got a year before it expires, and it was more runny. It's turned more buttery, but it's got a lovely buttery taste. But it all depends on whether you like coconut or not, because I'm a bit of a taste barbarian and I can enjoy almost anything. So if you're going to have foods which you take with you, you really need things that will last indefinitely, or at least for 3.5 years, which is the length of time that biblical prophecy says that we're going to have to be hidden for. So how will you know when it's the end time, and what exactly will lead up to it? Well, I presume most people have heard of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Now, those 4 horsemen are spoken about in Revelation, the beginning chapters, and the same 4 horsemen are spoken about in Matthew 24. And they equate to a crusading false religion is the white horse. The next horse is the red horse, which stands for war. Then there's a white horse, which stands for famine. And then there's a green horse that stands for pestilence and death. So those are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and they represent demons that are released from where they're kept at the moment in jail. And they go and ride the earth, and with the culmination of that fourth horse, the way we will know we're in the end time is the 4th horse kills 1/4 of the world's population. That's 1.5 to 2 billion people. So before you see before we reach the end time, 2 billion people have to die. So COVID only killed a few people by that scale. COVID was not the end time. We're not even close to the end time. And these are devastating times. These are not the normal run-of-the-mill times. You will know that something has changed when those 4 demons are released to riot the earth. And when 2 billion people die, then you will know that the brown stuff's hit the twirly thing and it's time to flee. So, I don't believe in scaring people into repentance. When you come to my age, the end is always nigh. 70 years are given to us. And if by reason of strength we prolong it, well, great. And if not, we can always get ridden over by a bus, so the end could be nigh for any of us. And is that really the best motivation for repentance? Is, oh, we fear it's the end time and we want to save our body? In early days of Christianity, Christians considered it an honor to be sent to the arena, to be eaten by the lions, to be burnt alive. All they had to do was sacrifice to Caesar, the emperor, offer a bit of incense, maybe just perform some small way of showing that they worship Caesar, and they would be let off, but they refused to. And we are still the leftovers we are living in the leftovers of Rome, as shown by the legs and toes of that image that was shown to Daniel in around about Daniel chapter 4. And so we are part of Rome, and Rome will continue to exist right till the end time. And the martyrdom of the saints will occur again at the end time, and it will again be given to us the honor and privilege of saying no to Mr. 666 and having the honor and privilege of dying in an arena. Good news and bad news. I don't think I'm going to see that, because I think I'm already a bit too old. I don't see the end time coming in my limited lifetime, but maybe some of you watching will live to see that, and you will have the honor of saying no to Mr. 666. Mr. 666 is going to be a defining moment in your life. You can either choose to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a few more years with Mr. 666, and there will not be many pleasures, because Mr. 666 will arise after the 4 horsemen. He will come and he will impose order and a mark on people in the hand and on the forehead. You will have a choice. Probably the white-collar workers will have it on their forehead. Probably the blue-collar workers will have it on their hand. And those people who submit to his terms and his way of doing things will live for a few more years, getting the meager resources that are left after a quarter of the earth's population is killed by war, famine, pestilence, and death. And then all those who have taken his mark will face the wrath of Christ. So we get the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, then we get the great tribulation, which is the persecution of the saints, where saints are again going to be probably beheaded if they refuse to take the mark. And then we're going to get, after that great tribulation, we're going to get Christ. It says there's going to be heavenly signs. Christ's going to return, rapture the saints that are left surviving in the wilds, in the caves, in the wilderness, in the ravines. Hebrews 11 talks about how the world was not worthy of these people, how they hid in the caves and ravines. And that is the time that we're going to have to flee, when this mark of the beast, so-called 666, is going to be imposed on religious folks. And it's a real defining moment. It is a like offer to Caesar moment or die moment. There's no fudging it. You can't pretend to offer or to have the mark of the beast and pretend to be a disciple at the same time. You're either going to be one or the other. Sitting on the fence will not be an option. So at this time, those who who refuse to take that mark will be left with only one alternative, and that is to flee, go and find yourself a stealth shelter, and go and hide away for the 3.5 years or however long the Great Tribulation lasts for. I think it's actually shorter, but I don't know. But it's a couple of years we may have to hide for and live off the land. And this is the kind of, I'm going through a diet of the kind of daily diet one would want to have, take provisions with. Say you have enough time to when you see these events happening, you can stock up. So we'd have our sugar, we'd have perhaps our coconut milk in a tin. We would have our porridge. With the porridge, I like to have a little bit of sugar as well. It doesn't even have to have milk. Milk is obviously a problem. Now I tend to have a lot more sugar in my porridge. And when you have your oats, which will last almost indefinitely, really is a good way to start the day. I like to put the oats in a flask, a thermos flask, and let it soak for a while, get nice and soft. Or you can boil them as well for a few minutes. But this is also fine. And then I'll go through with you snacks and lunchtime and supper time, what I consider would be a fairly well-balanced diet. And then the green perishable stuff, I think one has going to have to scavenge plants off the land. So it's going to be a great idea to get to know plants. I see here is a tree which has got fruit that are super good for you. I just want to get a few for you. I'm going to show you. So this is called Syzygium. I just picked a handful of these. They've got a pip. They're full of vitamin C, antioxidants, and it'll be very hard to get fresh food. So one's going to have to know some of the plants. But this handful of fruits has just about given me my vitamin C ration for the day. And there's tons more where these came from. They're really quite delicious. So I do enjoy oats, tea. I just want to add a bit of cocoa to this just to taste what it's like. Coconut butter. Nicer. Very nice, but you might get tired of the taste of coconut. So we're going to have to flee to the mountains, the caves, the ravines, away from civilization. And if you watch Naked and Afraid in those programs you'll notice that it's not easy. People tend to lose a lot of weight. And that is why you'd be well advised to, if you see things building up, when you see 1/4 of the world's population dying, to start provisioning your cave or finding your place to bug out. And I hope this video might come to mind, and some of the supplies which I recommend you would provision yourself with. Well, I'm continuing with my theme of foods that we're going to take with us when we go running to the hills. I've brought a lovely lentil and rice mix with a bit of chicken stock, so definitely rice and lentils should be high on my list, and then those are the cubes that you put in. I think there's a half a cube here. We can add that. Just break it up and mush it in. You need salt, curry powder, so lentils will last forever, very nutritious. Oh yeah, it's got a bit of coconut milk and pineapple in as well. But you could just make it out of basically your lentils and rice with a bit of stock of chicken, a bit of coconut milk. Yum yum. So that's about warm already. Let's taste it. Could be a bit warmer. But quite delicious. So I would say with survival, the idea is just to have enough carbs to survive, not lose weight. You'll be lucky if you want light stuff that you can carry that doesn't go off. Like lentils and rice. That's perfectly fine. I would use a rocket stove if I was in a well enough hidden place and there was no problem with smoke being seen. So that is super tasty. In theological terms, I think they would call me a post-tribulation rapturist. I believe that we've got to endure. We've either got to hide from Mr. 666 or we've got to hide in stealth shelters in the caves and the mountains, ravines, etc. Or we're going to be captured and probably beheaded. So I believe we have to go, many people will have to go through the Great Tribulation, which is the test on whether you're going to be obedient to man or to God. And when those few years are over, which is called the wrath of Satan, all of these things, all the four horsemen of the apocalypse are, and the fifth seal, the Great Tribulation, are Satan's wrath on the world. But from the sixth seal onwards, the heavenly signs, and the seventh seal, which is the seven trumpeted plagues and the seven vial plagues, that's all the wrath of God on man. And by then all these saints will have been raptured. So I believe you go through the tribulation, either getting killed or surviving till the end. When you see the heavenly signs, you know Christ's going to come and take you away from his punishment on the rest of the world. And then when you look at those last 7 trumpet and 7 vial plagues, you see how terrible they are. And that will be those people who have worshipped, taken the mark of the beast, will go through all that. So what's the point? You just gain a few years, but you lose your eternal life. I'm sure some of you will think, wow, this guy's crazy. He's just talking like a... Well, like I said, I don't think the world is just too calm, too peaceful, too normal. There's going to be a time when the world just turns abnormal. And those 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are released. You're going to get crusading kind of, like the Crusades were not religious in the sense they weren't Christian, they weren't godly, they weren't anything, they didn't do anything, they were horrible. They just caused misery and suffering. You're going to get that crusading kind of Christian religion, I believe. Or not, you can't even call it a Christian religion, but it will kind of pose as Christianity. And then you're going to get war, probably caused by these crusades. Then famine, then pestilence, and death, and a quarter of the world dying, and then you're going to get Mr. 666 really come into full power and start persecuting the true saints and forcing them to, everyone in the world will not be able to buy or sell, perhaps through, I mean, it's just, maybe you just got to show, excuse my dirty hands, I've been digging. Either you got to just show the mark on your forehead or your hand, or it could be cashless society by then, credit card, could be a microchip, who knows, it doesn't matter. The main thing that I just keep in mind is a quarter of the world, or 2 billion people have got to die before we know we're in the end times. And when people think the gospel's been preached in all the world for a witness, and then shall the end come, that only comes during the Great Tribulation. People dying, and like the Christians of old, dying in the arena, showing they prefer Christ to worshipping man, that is when the true gospel is preached in all the world for a witness, and then the end comes. Then Christ takes away his people to heaven, and then he pours out his wrath on the world. So at the moment, it's lovely that the gospel goes out on TBN and Faith Network and all these programs, YouTube. But there is coming a time when people are going to be forced to get off the fence one way or the other. And it'll be a glory and an honor to be beheaded for Christ or whatever, or to run away to the caves and hills and whatever. Might sound crazy. It's what the good book talks about if you read it. Read Revelation. It's the chronology of end time events. So, building stealth shelters like this. Maybe churches should have programs like this. Hey, we're not going to put up with Mr. 666. Let's learn to build our own stealth shelters. Let's learn to survive a little bit in the wild. Then we'll have more tools and skills and attitude and feel a bit more prepared to put up with running away from civilization. And imagine you can't buy or sell. You're going to have to live like this. You're going to have to forage. You're going to have to build shelters away from civilization. They're going to be hunting you down. If it sounds nuts, that's why I say the end isn't yet, because everything's still far too normal. The next food that I would recommend as a snack would be some cocoa. Take some coconut milk or butter, add it to your cup, take some sugar, obviously taking some sugar with you, mix it with the butter, and then take a teaspoon of cocoa powder, and mix it in with just mix it in so that it all mixes with the cocoa butter. Now we add boiling water to our cocoa. What's quite nice about that is the cocoa powder hides the coconut flavor quite well, and that's a pretty delicious drink. It truly is delicious. Now for a snack, in one of my past videos of camping with a tent inside, hidden inside a tree, that's about 3 videos ago, I showed how to make flatbread. Now this is flatbread with the addition of cocoa powder, and I dissolve sugar in the water, so it's got a slight sweetness and it's got a slight chocolatey cocoa taste. Not as sweet as regular biscuits, but really delicious. So you can make this over a gas stove and just snack on it all day. So this is a mixture of flour, oil, water, cocoa powder and sugar. The last stealth food which I want to talk about in this video is popcorn. We've got this little pixie pot with a little bit of oil. We're going to put it on quite high. And let's put on our popcorn. Not too much, this is a small pot. So the beauty, I guess, of popcorn, because one needs oil with, you need popcorn. I guess the beauty of it is it will again last forever. And you got your lentils, you got your rice, your popcorn. I wonder if popcorn would grow if you were by a river. It's the first time I'm doing popcorn in this pot. My recommendation would be to do it a little bit slower, because I think I can see it's going to probably burn because I had it on a bit too hot. But definitely you can do popcorn, it's obvious, and then you need just some salt with it. So do it a bit slower.